Hi there, and welcome back to my blog. My name is Marcy, and I am a registered dietitian, and it's March, which means it's National Nutrition Month. And in honor of National Nutrition Month, I really thought about what did I want to share with my listeners and my viewers, and I wanted to share a little bit more information about intuitive eating, which, as you know, if you frequent my blog, it's something that I talk about a fair bit, but it feels really important to me because it is the number one thing that has transformed my personal life and shaped my entire professional career, and is at the root of what I feel like helps me to do the work of helping people develop a healthier relationship with food and their bodies, to really feel free and freedom from the stress of the anxieties and the shame and the guilt that can be related to eating and to exercise and to body image. And it was also informed by the fact that I had this brief Twitter interaction with somebody who somehow found me on Twitter and was looking to write an article on the concepts of intuitive eating. And he sent me 3 really great questions about intuitive eating. So I thought, why not use his questions to develop a video blog to share with each of you? So really, Intuitive Eating, which was a book that was originally published in the first edition back in the mid-1990s, and it got a little bit of attention, but it didn't start to get a lot of public attention until about 2005, when a couple of major research studies made big headlines. And since then, there have been a number of researchers who began doing work on intuitive eating and really validating the principles of intuitive eating. And one of the really fantastic researchers who's had a big hand in shaping kind of the validity of intuitive eating is Tracy Tilka, and she's a researcher out of Ohio State University. And back in 2006, she published a large-scale article which the results of her study validated essentially 3 key features of what an intuitive eater is. So in answer to the first question that I received on Twitter, what is an intuitive eater? First, an intuitive eater is someone who has unconditional permission to eat when hungry, and to eat whatever food they are feeling hungry for in that moment. And I know most of you are probably thinking, that sounds like a train wreck ready to happen. If I let myself eat whatever I wanted when I was hungry, all I would eat was, chocolate cake or ice cream or something. And I'm going to get to that issue in a minute. The second quality of someone who's an intuitive eater eats for physical reasons rather than emotional reasons, and I'll add an asterisk there to say most of the time. There isn't an expectation with intuitive eating that it's followed stringently like a diet, but it's relatively flexible. But that the majority of the time, the eating that we do is in response to a physical need for food. And third key principle of an intuitive eater is that there is a reliance on the internal hunger and satisfaction cues to determine when to eat and how much to eat, rather than something that's externally dictated like a diet that tells you to eat breakfast at this time and exactly how much to eat. So if you are curious as to how successful of an intuitive eater you are, you can actually scroll to the bottom of this blog post, or if you're watching this video on YouTube, you might want to go to my blog, and I have the Intuitive Eating Scale 2, which is the most updated scale, which helps you to assess your degree of being a trusted intuitive eater. So the second question that I received was, is intuitive eating a step forward in obesity-related issues? It's my personal belief that, yes, I believe that intuitive eating can be. But I do want to stress that intuitive eating is not a weight loss plan. In fact, what I've seen clinically is that when people treat intuitive eating like a diet, it backfires just like a diet does. So one thing we do know from the current research is that our current efforts over the past several decades to really address the quote-unquote obesity epidemic have been pretty unsuccessful. In fact, every large-scale research study that has followed a restrictive type intervention like a low-calorie diet or a low-fat diet over a period of time of 1.5 to 2 years or longer shows that people who follow that intervention of a restrictive type diet initially lose weight. They're quite successful. But at about the 1 year mark, 1.5 year mark, and 2 year mark, is that we start to see weight regain. And not only weight regain, but that people end up heavier than before the diet. And I think a lot of people can identify with that experience, that people who have done a lot of dieting over the years are actually heavier than before they started dieting. In fact, what the research shows us is that going on a diet is the #1 predictor of future weight gain. So if we take the flip side to following a diet, this external kind of resource to tell you what to eat and when, and we're saying, no, you really have that information inside of you. You just need to learn how to cue into it and listen to it. Many people really fear that they just can't trust themselves. And that's really just a natural, normal outcome of having followed diets and failed them, this belief that that people can't trust their own kind of internal wisdom. But the really interesting thing is that the research is actually quite promising in the support of intuitive eating. That the research actually shows that people who rely on those internal gauges eat a greater variety of foods, have an overall healthy, balanced diet, take more pleasure in their eating, and actually have a lower BMI. Now, I say that with a little bit of reservation, again, because if you take intuitive eating and try to treat it as a diet or a way to lose weight, it does tend to backfire. But what we see is that when we look at intuitive eaters versus people who are on and off a lot of diets, there's a couple of really important key differences. When intuitive eaters are compared to those dieters, those people who follow those internally regulated cues were less likely to eat when they weren't hungry, were less likely to eat in response to emotional fluctuations and situational factors that might have cued overeating. So what we see is that the skills that are developed or that occur in somebody who's not following a diet but really listening to their own internal regulating signals is that they don't participate in the same kind of behaviors that tend to lead to weight gain. So the last and final question I'm going to address in this video blog is intuitive eating a solution to the self-hate cycle of dieting? And I believe that this is absolutely true. I have certainly seen it in my professional practice, and again, the research is showing that it validates this to be true as well. So there's a really cool study, and I do want to say all of the references that I'm talking about in this talk I have on my website as well, so they're going to be cited at the end of this video blog. That the research shows that when people learn to eat in response to their body's cues to hunger, fullness, and satisfaction, that's associated with psychological well-being. And this includes markers such as optimism, psychological hardiness, or what we think of as being resilience, unconditional self-regard, so this sense of I am important, I matter, this self-respect that is unconditional and unwavering, that there is more signs of proactive coping and social problem solving. And all of these are markers of psychological well-being, that the mood and the general affect of somebody who begins to have confidence and the skill to be able to eat intuitively is very, very promising. So those are some little tidbits that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you learned a lot and are thinking more and more about the benefits of intuitive eating. And I love that I received some questions via Twitter that I could respond to. So if you have a video blog or a blog post that you would love to hear me talk about, maybe a piece of research that you saw or a headline or something that you saw on Dr. Oz, and you want me to address it, go ahead and send it to me. You can connect with me via Twitter at MarcyRD or send it to me via email. So thanks for joining, and I hope you have a great day.